Flip Lesson 2.8, Plate Tectonics. Remember to write down your learning goals, which are identify the 3 types of plate boundaries, determine the geologic features that results from plate movement, describe the movement that occurs at different plate boundaries, and describe evidence of crustal movement. Your vocabulary words are plate tectonics, divergent boundary, convergent boundary, transform boundary, subduction, and hotspots. The lithosphere is the rigid outer shell of Earth, which consists of the ocean and the continental crust. It sits above the asthenosphere, which is a fluid-like part of the Earth. Evidence of crustal movement is as follows. Scientists have been able to use earthquakes, displaced structures, volcanic eruptions, tilted or folded layers, fossils, sedimentary rock at high elevations, and layers of shallow water sediments to prove that the crust actually moves. Plate tectonics is the theory that the Earth's crust consists of large, rigid slabs of rock, known as plates, that slide around, causing the edges of these plates to collide, separate, and slide past each other. The first kind of boundary that exists between these 2 plates is known as a divergent boundary. Divergent boundary, plates are moving away from each other. And as the plates move away from each other, they cause magma to fill into the groove and solidify. Examples of these types of plate boundaries can be found in Iceland, at the mid-Atlantic ridge, and between the North American and African plates. The geologic features that form as a result of this movement are mid-ocean ridges, underwater mountains, shallow earthquakes, and new ocean floor. Convergent plate boundaries, ocean to continent. The continental crust is less dense than the oceanic crust. When this movement occurs, the plates are moving towards each other, causing a collision. But because the densities are different between the continental and the oceanic crust, the ocean crust tends to be plunged, as you can see here, underneath the continental crust when they collide. This plunging force causes the oceanic plate into the mantle and to melt. In the case of 2 continental plates colliding, mountains tend to form. The crust folds and crumbles, forming mountains, and an example of this is the Andes Mountains and the Himalayan Mountains. Geologic features that form as a result of movement are mountains and subduction zones. Subduction zones can only occur when 2 plates of different densities, like in the example above, are colliding. Transform plate boundaries. The plates slide past each other, known as a strike-slip motion. Okay? Plates on either side of a fault rub against each other, shattering rocks, creating tension, and shearing the edges of the 2 plate boundaries. Examples of this are the San Andreas Fault, which is an example of the Pacific plate and the North American plate sliding past one another. Geologic features that form as a result of the movement are earthquakes, which is very apparent in California, small-scale volcanoes, Subduction zones. Subduction zones are the process where the ocean floor, as you can see here, is pulled downward into the mantle where it melts and is destroyed. A subduction zone can only occur when there are two plates of different densities colliding. Examples of these zones can be found in Indonesia, Japan. Volcanic island arcs are associated with subduction zones. Trenches are areas deep in the ocean floor where oceanic crust is being destroyed. If you notice in this diagram, this is a ridge, and we know that at ridges, new ocean floor is being created. Magma is rising and filling the groove, solidifying and forming new ocean floor. As that is occurring, the older ocean floor is moving in this direction and eventually being pulled underneath a trench where the ocean floor is being destroyed. Earthquakes are very frequent in trenches, and there is a relationship between ridges and trenches, and that is that as the new ocean floor is being created, the old ocean floor is being destroyed at the same rate. Hotspots. There are zones of rising magma. Hotspots can be found in Iceland, Hawaii, and the Galapagos. Hotspots are large batches of magma that rise, as you can see here, toward a moving plate. So in this case, we're looking at the Pacific plate. If you notice here, highlighted in red. So as the Pacific plate is moving in that direction, the hot magma is filling in the wedges and cracks in that moving plate. And what it does is it forms volcanoes. So all of these volcanoes that I'm highlighting in blue, well, volcanoes that were formed via hotspots. The older volcanoes are being carried away in that direction, in the same direction that the plate is moving, and the newer volcanoes are being formed right over the hotspot. Scientists have suggested that this explains how the Hawaiian Islands have been formed. Mid-ocean ridges. New ocean floor is constantly being created along mid-ocean ridges. Mid-ocean ridges occur at divergent boundaries where plates are moving apart from one another. As plates move away from one another, the magma rises and fills in the groove, solidifying and forming new ocean floor. This process is known as seafloor spreading, which occurs at mid-ocean ridges. New ocean floor is created as the Earth's crust is splitting apart. The newer ocean floor is located near the center of the ridge, while the older ocean floor is located farther away from the center of the ridge. As a new ocean floor is forming, it is pushing the older ocean floor farther away from the center. So scientists can tell or date the creation of certain parts of the ocean's floor based on their location or their distance away from the mid-ocean ridge.